Imagine walking across a barren plateau in southeastern Turkey, the wind whipping at your face, your boots crunching on the gravel. You stumble upon enormous stone pillars, tall as a two-story house, intricately carved with animals no one recognizes, symbols no one can read. But what happened next would rewrite everything we thought we knew about human history. Most of us were taught that civilization began with farming. People settled down, built villages, and slowly developed culture, religion, and monumental architecture. But here, on a remote hilltop called Göbekli Tepe, none of that makes sense. This site is over 11,000 years old, meaning it predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years, and yet it's enormous, complex, and astonishingly precise. A place of worship, or something else entirely. But who built it? And why did they bury it completely, as if trying to erase themselves from history? Today, we're diving deep into Göbekli Tepe, a prehistoric temple complex that shouldn't exist, and exploring the clues it left behind about the people who built it. In the 1960s, archaeologists surveying southeastern Turkey found strange stone fragments sticking out of the earth. Initially, it was written off as a medieval site. It wasn't until the 1990s, under the guidance of German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, that the scale of Göbekli Tepe became apparent. Schmidt realized these were not ordinary stones. They were massive T-shaped pillars, arranged in circular formations. Some weighed over 10 tons. They were decorated with carved animals, lions, foxes, vultures, snakes, and abstract symbols that no one could read. Think about it. Humans had only just emerged from the last ice age. They were hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons, living off what the land provided. Yet they somehow organized a workforce capable of lifting and positioning these enormous stones without modern tools, levers, or even wheels. Schmidt's team dated the site to around 9,600 BC. That's before agriculture, before writing, before cities existed. And yet, here was a monumental temple complex, the oldest known in the world. What made this discovery even more shocking was the sheer ambition on display. The site covers over 15 acres, with evidence suggesting it was expanded and used for thousands of years. Radiocarbon dating revealed multiple construction phases, each more elaborate than the last. This wasn't a one-time effort. It was a sustained commitment spanning centuries, possibly millennia. Early Stone Age people had literally invested generations into creating something sacred, something permanent. Klaus Schmidt himself spent over 2 decades excavating Göbekli Tepe, dedicating his life to unlocking its secrets until his death in 2014. His work transformed how we understand human capability and social organization. What he and his team uncovered challenged the very foundation of archaeological theory. The deeper archaeologists dug, the more questions emerged. Why build a temple when survival should have been the only concern? And why, after centuries of construction, bury it deliberately in dirt, stone, and rubble? It was almost as if these ancient people wanted to hide their achievement from history. But the mystery deepened even further as excavations continued. The site wasn't isolated. Archaeologists discovered that Göbekli Tepe was part of a broader network of similar, though smaller, ritual sites scattered across southeastern Turkey. This suggests that the knowledge, skills, and spiritual beliefs that led to Göbekli Tepe's construction were shared across multiple communities. They weren't a single isolated group with exceptional abilities, but rather part of a complex cultural sphere spanning hundreds of kilometers. The precision of the work is staggering when you examine it closely. Some of the T-shaped pillars are carved with such geometric accuracy that they could have been made with modern tools. The stonework shows an understanding of weight distribution, structural integrity, and artistic composition that was far more advanced than contemporary civilizations elsewhere in the world. What's perhaps most astonishing is the evidence of ritual sophistication. Archaeologists have found carved stone vessels, decorated implements, and objects that served no practical survival purpose. These findings suggest a culture with leisure time, with the ability to think beyond immediate survival, and with complex belief systems worthy of elaborate expression. The discovery also challenged our understanding of where civilization emerged. For centuries, scholars pointed to Mesopotamia and Egypt as the cradles of human civilization. But Göbekli Tepe predates both by millennia, existing in a time when those regions were still occupied by simple hunter-gatherers. This single site rewrote the geography of human achievements and forced historians to reconsider what civilization actually means. To understand Göbekli Tepe, we have to rethink what we know about prehistoric humans. Until now, historians assumed monumental architecture only happens after farming, when people can stay in one place and store food. But here, we have hunter-gatherers with no agriculture building something more advanced than anything in their time. The T-shaped pillars are carved from limestone quarried kilometers away. Some weigh up to 10 to 20 tons. There are rings of pillars, 15 meters in diameter, sometimes larger, forming dozens of circles across the hilltop. Each pillar is engraved with animals, predators like lions, leopards, and snakes. Scholars think these carvings may represent spiritual beliefs, tribal symbols, or shamanistic visions. But there's no written record, no village remains, no evidence of agriculture. Consider the logistics alone. Imagine extracting a 20-ton block of limestone using only stone tools, antler picks, and wooden levers. Then transport it across rough terrain, uphill, through forests and valleys, for several kilometers. Finally, position it perfectly upright and carve intricate details into its surface. All of this required not just strength, but planning, coordination, and an understanding of geometry. Researchers believe that building Göbekli Tepe required hundreds of people coordinating for decades, maybe centuries. Some scholars propose that these weren't permanent residents, but rather mobile groups who gathered seasonally at the site. Maybe the abundance of wild game in the region allowed people to congregate during certain times of year. Perhaps a coalition of bands came together for months to work on the temple, combining their labor and resources. This would explain how hunter-gatherers, who typically operate in smaller family groups, could muster the workforce for such an undertaking. It's hard to overstate the mystery here. How did humans organize labor on such a scale without hierarchical society? How did they develop tools, techniques, and knowledge of geometry that shouldn't have existed? Some scholars suggest Göbekli Tepe was a ritual center, a place for gatherings, feasts, and ceremonies that brought people together. Archaeologists have found evidence of animal bones, wild boar, gazelle, and other game, suggesting large-scale communal meals took place here. Perhaps this very need to come together spurred early social cohesion and eventually agriculture. In a way, religion may have preceded farming, turning conventional history on its head. The site's architectural evolution tells its own story. Earlier phases show simpler arrangements, while later phases display increasingly sophisticated construction techniques and artistic refinement. This progression suggests that over time, the people who built Göbekli Tepe developed new skills, refined their methods, and grew more ambitious with each generation. And then, after centuries of use, the builders intentionally buried the entire site. The reason remains unknown. Was it fear? Religious ritual? Environmental changes? No one knows. But the sheer effort to bury these massive stones is astonishing. The labor required to construct Göbekli Tepe offers fascinating insights into how early humans organized complex projects without formal hierarchy or written instructions. Modern experimental archaeology has attempted to replicate the quarrying and moving of these massive stones using only prehistoric tools and techniques. The results are humbling. It takes dozens of workers weeks to accomplish what the Göbekli Tepe builders did routinely. Scholars theorize that the success of such massive cooperative efforts may have relied on sophisticated knowledge systems passed down through generations. Master builders and artisans likely gained prestige and authority, not through force or ownership, but through demonstrated skill and spiritual authority. This challenges the old assumption that hierarchy and specialization could only emerge with agriculture and permanent settlements. The engineering solutions employed at Göbekli Tepe suggest experimentation and iterative learning. Some pillars were carved in different styles across different circles, implying that builders refined their techniques over time, trying new approaches and sharing successful methods with neighboring communities. It's possible that workers from different groups brought different expertise. Some specialized in quarrying, others in transport, others in carving, creating a specialized division of labor. Archaeological evidence also suggests that the construction of Göbekli Tepe may have been accompanied by extensive feasting and celebration. Large quantities of animal bones found at the site indicate that people gathered not just to work, but to share meals and reinforce social bonds. These communal feasts likely served as occasions to celebrate progress, cement alliances between groups, and maintain the spiritual and social cohesion necessary for the project's continuation. When Schmidt's team began excavating the site, they uncovered multiple layers of circular enclosures, each buried beneath tons of soil. What's striking is how deliberately it was done. Not abandoned, not destroyed by war, but carefully covered. Archaeologists have debated the purpose of this. Some suggest that burying the site allowed it to continue as a sacred place, hidden from outsiders. Others propose that the climate and changing environment forced the site's abandonment, and the burial was a protective measure. One fascinating theory involves the transition to agriculture itself. Around 9000 BC, roughly 600 years after Göbekli Tepe's initial construction, farming began taking root in the Fertile Crescent. Some researchers wonder if the spiritual significance of Göbekli Tepe, the communal gatherings, the shared ritual experiences, may have actually catalyzed the move towards settled agricultural life. If that's true, then by burying Göbekli Tepe, people may have been closing the chapter on a hunter-gatherer past they were leaving behind. The burial itself wasn't haphazard. Excavations revealed that soil and stone were used to systematically cover the site, layer by layer, suggesting a deliberate closure ritual. Some archaeologists interpret this as an act of reverence, not destruction, but preservation, a sacred place being returned to the earth, perhaps to be rediscovered in some distant future. What's equally remarkable is what archaeologists have found around and beneath the pillars. Flint tools, evidence of feasts, carved bones, and fragments of art suggest sophisticated craftsmanship and aesthetic sensibilities. These weren't brutal, survival-focused people. They were capable of creating beauty, of performing rituals, of thinking beyond their immediate needs. Göbekli Tepe teaches us something profound. Our ancestors were capable of feats far beyond what we imagined. They were visionary, patient, and highly organized. Their understanding of symbolism, ritual, and social cooperation challenges the timeline of human history we were taught in school. The carvings themselves offer clues about their worldview. Predators dominate the imagery, suggesting a culture that respected or feared natural forces. Abstract symbols hint at ritual knowledge or proto-writing, a bridge between pure hunter-gatherer life and structured civilization. Some carved animals appear to be hybrid creatures, blending features of different species, possibly representing shamanic transformation or spiritual concepts we can only guess at. Today, Göbekli Tepe continues to inspire archaeologists, historians, and visitors alike. Each year, new layers are uncovered, revealing more about a civilization that existed before civilization was supposed to exist. New technologies like LiDAR scanning have even revealed additional structures buried beneath the surface, suggesting the site is far larger than previously thought. In recent years, researchers have begun piecing together a more complete picture of daily life around Göbekli Tepe. Settlements discovered nearby reveal that people lived in semi-permanent camps during construction seasons, returning year after year to work on the site. These weren't nomadic groups passing through. They were invested participants in a multi-generational project. The dedication required suggests that Göbekli Tepe held profound spiritual and cultural significance, something worth sacrificing comfort and resources for. The artistic elements continue to reveal new interpretations. Some researchers now believe that certain carvings may depict specific individuals or spiritual leaders, suggesting that the site served as a form of early monument building to commemorate important people. Others argue that the predator imagery reflects shamanic practices, with the powerful animals representing spirit guides, or forces being channeled through ritual performance. The hybrid creatures carved into some pillars, creatures that never existed in nature, may represent spiritual entities, or the blending of animal and human consciousness in shamanic trance states. Perhaps most provocatively, some scholars wonder if Göbekli Tepe represents the world's first ideology, a shared belief system powerful enough to unite diverse groups across vast distances. If so, then religion didn't merely accompany the rise of civilization. It may have actively created the conditions for civilization to emerge. The spiritual and social bonds formed at Göbekli Tepe may have laid the groundwork for the settled agricultural communities that would eventually transform human history. In this interpretation, the site becomes not merely a temple, but a crucible where human civilization was forged. Göbekli Tepe is more than just stones on a hill. It's a testament to human creativity, vision, and mystery. It shows that even before agriculture, before writing, humans were capable of extraordinary architectural and social achievements. The people who built this ancient temple left no written records, no kings' names inscribed in stone, no monuments bearing their likenesses. Yet they created something that has lasted 11,000 years, something that continues to humble and inspire us. In a way, their greatest achievement wasn't the temple itself, but the proof that human ingenuity and collective purpose can accomplish the impossible. It reminds us to question our assumptions, to look beneath the surface of history, and to remember that the world's first monumental temple was not built by kings or empires, but by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And perhaps, buried in the dust of time, there are still ancient worlds waiting to surprise us, just as Göbekli Tepe has. Every excavation, every new discovery, adds another piece to the puzzle of who we are and what humanity is truly capable of achieving. Göbekli Tepe stands as a humbling reminder. Our ancestors were not primitive. They were visionaries, builders, and dreamers who reached toward something greater than themselves. And in doing so, they may have reached toward civilization itself. Thank you for watching. I'd love to hear where you're watching from. And if this story gave you a new perspective on history, drop a comment below. If you enjoy learning about these lesser-known moments that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. See you in the next video.